1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro. And if you want to get that song, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, and I will give you the information on how to get it. Now, today, we about to get into part 2 of the video by Damian Porter. The name of his page is called Inside Story. The name of this video is called Two Whites Attack Elderly Black Person and the Blacks Retaliate, or something along those lines, man. So let's get right into the video.
Welcome to another episode, everyone. This is part 2 of the war between the blacks and the whites there in Corcoran State Prison, circa 1995, 1996. And the whites have indeed attacked an elderly black. They left him brutalized, and he had to be carted, he had to be carted off of the yard. So now the word is filtering back into the buildings. The word is filtering back into the yard. It's trickling down. What has just transpired, that they brutalized this black man. Everyone's upset. We're communicating in the kites. The brothers are going back and forth. We're going over this, what to do, how to attack. Of course, it is already resolved. The decision has already been made. An attack is imminent.
100%, right? There is no way whatsoever that the brothers on the line was going to allow that, right? And keep in mind, of course, this is back in 1995. You know, times were extremely different and more hostile than today. Even though that's neither here nor there, because I feel today there would be an attack, right? Anytime someone attacks somebody else from another faction, that faction definitely feels that there has to be get back. And I'm pretty sure the whites who did the attack and the entire white collective knew that there was going to be get back as well, as well as the administration. This is something that goes back and forth, and it's just the dynamics of prison.
As soon as we come off of lockdown, because of course we went on lockdown over the situation. However, we only went on lockdown for a few days. So during this lockdown, we're communicating. Now, I must preface this by saying that I just left the Los Angeles County Jail not long before this. So I was used to being in riots with the Southsiders. I mean, back and forth all day, as I've explained on my channel multiple times. As I've said, the riots began to kick off in 1994, the end of 1993. They're in Wayside, they're in the Los Angeles County Jail. Oftentimes, we were the ones being attacked. That ended up changing. It was equal. We were attacking each other. But still, my mindset is like, we have to attack the Southsiders. This is what I'm saying in the kites. I just didn't know any better because I'm coming from the county jail. And this is, I'm like, they're just about to sit back and allow, 100 blacks to attack 20 whites or whatever. I don't see that happening. I'm sure the whites are cozying up to these individuals while we're on this lockdown and trying to convince them, influence them to ride with them. But the OGs quickly laced my boots and let me know, no, bro, this is not the Los Angeles County Jail. That's not how it's working here. The Southsiders are not going to get involved whatsoever. They're going to mind their own business. They have nothing to do with this. Trust me. This is not the county jail, bro.
Now, a lot of times on some of these YouTube channels, we hear that the whites are aligned with the Southern Hispanics, right? They program on the same side of the day room, so on and so forth. But in my experience, that has been a loose alliance, right? There has been several riots that I was either involved in with the whites and the blacks, or I was on other yards and there was riots between whites and blacks. And then now that I think about it, also in Ironwood on B Yard, which I was not present for, there was a riot between the blacks and the Southern Hispanics. And in each of these riots and situations, the whites did not aid the Southern Hispanics, and then when we got into it over the white crip, the Southerners did not aid the whites. So I guess at certain times maybe there had been an alliance, and I guess it just all depends on the dynamics. I think the time period is important, but at most I believe sometimes it's more of a loose alliance, if anything.
I said, okay, cool. So the decision was made. The only strategy really involved was making sure that we can get all of the whites that were on the yard, as many as possible, because, some are on the top tier, some are on the bottom tier. Not all of them are going to be able to come out to the yard at the same time. And we don't want to let any of them escape. People are incensed, outraged, infuriated over the attack upon our older brother. Now, I must say, there was an older white on the yard. He was in building 3. I was in building 1 at the time. And I sat in the kite to some of the brothers in building 3. I like, man, the older white dude, he was real old. So I said, what's going on with him? Like, y'all not going to get him, right? My old nice ass. You know what I'm saying? As I said, I'm coming from the county jail, and like in the county jail, hands are off on older people. But this is prison, you know what I'm saying? And they quickly told me, no, bro, it's up. It's war. Everyone must go. They attacked the elderly brother. What are you talking about? I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's right. They quickly checked me, quickly put me in my place. I'm like, okay, it's up. It's up. It is what it is. Now, baby Malcolm was adamant. He felt like, this had transpired over him, over something that he had said or what have you. And he was irate. He was,
As he should have been, of course, with the situation, and this is part 2, right? So if you guys didn't see the part 1, go check out part 1. In part 1, you had some white dudes attack an elderly black dude after they had got into an argument with a dude the big fella here has named Baby Malcolm because of his fiery rhetoric and his dedication, I guess, to black people, right? And so Baby Malcolm has this back and forth argument with the white dude. He calls the white dude a racial slur. The brothers refuse to remove Baby Malcolm, even though in prison protocol he should have been. He disrespected another race, right? But I guess due to the affinity that the blacks had for this dude, they refused to move him, and the whites was severely outnumbered, and I believe that definitely played a part, right? Nevertheless, they attacked a black dude once the blacks refused to remove the dude who hurled the racial slur. And so Baby Malcolm, the dude who hurled the racial slur, in my opinion, of course, should be on the front line. He should kick the riot off because, once again, the black dude was attacked because of his lack of professionalism when dealing with another race.
Was upset. He was adamant about being on the front line, making sure that he's the one that kicks it off, that he does the attack first. Okay, fine. So only thing that we strategized about was when we're on the yard and we take off right there on the yard, everyone that's inside of the buildings, if anyone that's in the kitchen, that works in the program office, the laundry, behind the wall, wherever they at, make sure you attack them. As soon as you hear the alarm going off, as soon as you look onto the outside of the yard door and see that it's up, y'all get off right here in the day room. You get off in vocation. You get off wherever you see one of them at. You must attack immediately.
Now, riots like that are actually extremely chaotic, when you plan something like that, because there are only so many officers, right? Let's just say you have a riot an impromptu riot on the yard. The officers will respond, right? And I forget the exact name. I think it's like a code 1. Then if it's several people involved, it's a code 2 or whatever. So when they hit that code 2, you have all of them running. But now imagine a riot jumping off on a yard that has 5 buildings. So now it's jumping off in every building because it's planned. Like he said earlier, once you guys hear the alarm at such and such time, this means that we have got cracking. So you take off in your building because everybody's not allowed to come to the yard. Sometimes you have to have a certain work privilege to come to the yard. Some people are on, somewhat of a punishment. They're in the building. Some people are at work, so on and so forth. So the plan was, when you guys, wherever you are, when you hear this alarm, that means we have took off. The get back has started and the get cracking. And so now an alarm goes off on the yard, officers starting to respond. Then an alarm goes off in 1 building. Then an alarm goes off in 2 buildings. Then an alarm goes off in 3 buildings. An alarm goes off behind the we call it work exchange, behind the wall, where they have the trades where you can go back there and learn to have learn a trade and things like that. So it's extremely chaotic and it's longer because now this thins out the response of the guards and gives them less of an opportunity to respond, and so it definitely gets chaotic.
That was the only strategy. Everyone agreed upon that. Fine. So we come out to the yard. Baby Malcolm is there. All of the brothers on the yard that were able to make it to the yard. It's about 10 whites that are on the yard. Now, there was one specifically that Baby Malcolm had a target on. This was the individual that he had dealings with, had got into it with, and hurled the racial slur at. He felt like this situation was all over him, over himself as well, but over this individual here. So he wanted to make sure that he attacked him, and the brothers in general wanted to send a message, a strong message. Now, indeed, you can make the argument that the brothers were, they could have handled it different as far as with Baby Malcolm from the beginning. And again, had it been a different situation, perhaps a different group, it would have been handled different. But since it's the whites, there was already tension there. The relationship was a tenuous one as it was. Everyone decided, the hell with that. We're not getting rid of Baby Malcolm, right or wrong. Some would make the argument that that was indeed wrong. Fine. Nevertheless, and I'm not going to try to disabuse you of the notion that we did not stand on what we were supposed to by getting rid of Baby Malcolm. I'm just telling you that our hearts were involved, that we had so much love for this brother that indeed we flouted the rules and the protocols ourselves. The brothers did. We said, no, we're going to stand against what's wrong and we're going to stand with Brother Malcolm. The whites attacked over this. Okay, fine. We get it, but we can't stand for that. Right or wrong, there must be retaliation. There must be an immediate response. And there was. We come out to the yard. It's about 5. Now, I don't know why the whites separated. We were on lockdown for all of 4 or 5 days. It doesn't take long because they send around these MAC reps, the representative from each faction, and say, hey, is it over? Y'all cool? Yeah, it's over, man. Go back and tell the police it's over. Let us off lockdown. And they go back and tell the police it's over, man. You can let them off lockdown. The police know it's a lie. They know as soon as the door is cracked, it's up.
And that's what I said earlier. Of course, the administration knows a riot is coming just like everybody else. But now when you have these MAC reps, and the MAC is an acronym for Men's Advisory Council, and like he said, each one is a representative of their race, and they act as a liaison between the administration and the convicts. Once they all go back and report everything is cool, then the administration has done enough to cover their ass. So they write in a report or whatever they have to write that, everything is cool or whatever, and they let them back up. This is how things went back in those days, because if you keep them down for a week or you keep them down for 75 weeks, it's going to be a response. The only way to eliminate a response, they would have had to flip that whole entire yard, meaning they would have had to bust the whites and the blacks out from that yard, lock the yard down, and have buses come in and send them off to different prisons, and then bring in people from different other prisons to change the whole population of that yard. Anything less than that, regardless of when you let them out, a riot was going to crack.
They still had to let us off lockdown at some point, so they go ahead and let us off, go ahead and get this shit over with. But to cover their own backsides, they sent around these MAC reps, and so the police can say, well, they told us it was over.
Right, 100.
So we were only on lockdown about 4 days. We come off. Now, I'm not sure why the whites separated. Normally, they stick together anyway. They have a particular part of the yard. The Southsiders have a part of the yard. The blacks have a part of the yard. This is always established as soon as a prison is open. Who gets what section and why? Oftentimes, there's much violence involved in resolving these issues. Nevertheless, for some reason, it was about 5 whites on one side of the yard and 5 or 6 of them on another side of the yard. And on the one side of the yard, they were over there working out. Now, certainly, they just took a few of them over there, together and said, watch his back. You don't work out. You don't work out. We finna work out. You stand right here and stand guard with the pieces. Certainly, they know that an attack is imminent. I don't know if they believe that they were going to have backup or what, but they must know that a response is forthcoming rapidly. Me, baby Malcolm, and quite a few other brothers are walking around the track. I wanted to make sure that I was involved as well. I was 19 years old and I was a bit unruly, not unruly in the sense of not listening to my higher ups. I always have always believed in the protocol, in the program, and my OGs and my big homies. They tell me to do something. They tell me to shut the F up. Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna shut the F up. So, but I was unruly in the sense that I was seeking blood. I've been involved in a lot of riots already. I've been involved in some stuff behind the walls, even at 19 years old. And I was still putting myself on the map, and I was young. I'm supposed to be involved in this. And I wanted to make sure that I was, that I'm doing everything that needs to be done wherever I go. So anyway, we walking around the tracks, me and baby Malcolm, we talking. The whites, the one that is the target, they're not the group that is working out. They're just posted up, hands in their pockets, and they're very alert. They know it's coming, and it's coming soon. Soon as we catch up to it, soon as we get in arm's distance. And so we're walking and we're approaching, and there's quite a few blacks. And we get up on them, and we rush. And baby Malcolm, well, he pulled out the chopper. He had a big one. And he goes at him. Baby Malcolm, he was no joke, bro. This young dude was no joke. Fueled by the history of America.
Now, don't let that go over your head, man. He said, fueled by the history of America. And if you know anything about America's true history, especially in relation to minorities, and you've done a lot of deep reading, I believe that's something that would fuel a lot of people, right? But let's get back to it.
This is what drove him and pushed him into this frenzy of violence. And he on him. And I'm on him. And all the blacks are on him, bro. Now, the whites, they indeed had knives, and they tried to pull them out, but they couldn't. They had no chance. It's at least 20 blacks over here, and there's about 4 whites, if I'm being honest. And the blacks have knives, and they are attacking, and they are furious. You look across the yard, and the blacks have already began to attack the whites that were over there working out. 5 or 6 of them. They're all on the ground being pummeled, beat, stumped, and stabbed. They had knives as well, but could not do anything with it. They had no chance. It's at least 25 blacks on the 5 or 6 whites that are at least 25. And there's more blacks right there, standing up, just like if they get tired or if it ain't looking like they handling this for some reason, then there's a whole nother group ready to come that's ready to jump. It's just right now, it's not going to be overkill. So it could have been 50 on them 5. It could have been 50 over here on these 5, at least 50. But it was just about 20. And another group, as I said, of blacks in each pocket where the whites are being attacked on either side of the yard were another group of blacks ready to jump in if need be and just watching everything else. And they all had strapped. This was the strategy. We had certain designated people ready that had our backs while we were doing what we had to do. The police come, they're yelling, get down, get down, get down. Of course, they come and they're spraying the mace. Now, this is the thing. The police, they're not going to interfere. Once they see a weapon, they're not going to physically get involved. They're not going to come and physically remove you if you have a weapon. As you've seen from the viral video of the stabbing in Kern Valley, where 15 or so people got on the one dude, and the police are sitting right there, and they unalived him right there in front of the police because they had weapons. The most they're going to do is spray you with something. Now, if you don't have a weapon, if they do not see a weapon, oftentimes they will physically get involved. They'll whip out their billy club, they whip out these little sticks, they'll beat you and try to pull you off of the dude, all of this, if they don't see a weapon. Once they see those weapons and that blood leaking out of somebody, it's over. They're going to stand back and let you die right there. So they're there spraying the mace, but they're not doing anything else. Now, the police in Corcoran at this time are crooked. As I have alluded to before, they are unaliving inmates. They're setting up fights and betting on these fights. And then when the fight transpires right there on the yard, they shoot down on the yard and kill inmates. This has already been proven. And at the time, this is going on. And there is no investigation that we all know of. They're just simply getting away with this. So the police are venal and corrupt there in Corcoran. So we believe that these individuals may start shooting. But we just said, all of this was part of the strategy. If they begin to shoot, we're going to attack the police right there. The police going to come. Once we start attacking the whites, the police going to come. Once they come, and they're going to stand right there and form their little wall and all that. If these gun towers shoot anyone that's black, we're going to attack all the police. That was the plan. But they did not. It finally broke. It was still going on for a while. The blacks would not stop. And the whites were on the ground, really all of them, immobile and not moving. This is not an exaggeration. This is what it was. Period.
Whoa, hold up. How did you get this car? Didn't yours get totaled in that crash?
Yeah, that one's gone. This car, I got it with the accident money from that crash.
Wait, what do you mean accident money?
Check this out. I got $74,000.
People were cuffed up. I went to the hole, not for long. They didn't find any knife or anything on me. Baby Malcolm, we were all on the same tier together in the hole. For about 2 months, I was only in the hole for about 2 months. They sent me back to the yard, me and some others. It was multiple. They put a gang of people in the hole. They only had so much room. So they kept who they kept. Baby Malcolm and a few others ended up transferring to the shoe. Because Baby Malcolm didn't care about the fact that he had the knife on him and blood. When the police came up, he was still hitting. So it's like he couldn't even deny that he did this, that he had this, because he was still going. By the time the police came up, I ain't had nothing on me. Yeah, it wasn't happening. There you have it. Bloody wars in prison. I've been in quite a few.
There you have it. Bloody wars in prison. I've been in quite a few. Hey, y'all already know what it is, man. What is a reaction to a big fella video without a big fella impersonation? You know, I had to slide that up in there, even though I think I could have been a little better.
That's why I encourage you all to stay out of there and stay free. And this is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not.
That's why I encourage you guys to stay out of there. Stay free. You there it was. It was all. I'm telling you. Okay, yeah. I had to try to come back and get that over.
Certainly not to glorify anything, because it's not fun and it's not funny. People get hurt. People get stabbed. An elderly black got stabbed. He got brutalized. The whites, and they got hurt too. They ended up getting hurt, bro. In response, because people were very upset. They were very upset. But again, I'm sure some people, going to say in the comments, man, y'all were wrong. Y'all was supposed to get baby Malcolm off of the yard. Y'all always talking about the rules and the protocols. And the rule is, someone says something racial, does something racial, they're in prison. Of course, you have to take care of that. Your own people are supposed to take care of that. That's the truth. That is the rule. And that did not happen in this case. The blacks, you can say, flouted the rule, because we said, had it been someone else, probably. There's always favoritism involved in everything, in your gang and all this favoritism. And in this case, everyone favored baby Malcolm. I believe had it been me, it'd have been the same thing. They just said, nah, we're not getting him off the yard. It's not happening. I'm sorry. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. The blacks responded. The blacks retaliated. It kicked off in the day rooms as well. A couple of whites that may have been in the day rooms. I know one in Fort Building, he got crashed inside of the day room pretty bad. It was one behind the wall. He got crashed. It was only a couple that was in their cell that had not been able to make it out. But the rest of them that were on the yard, that worked anywhere else in vocation, happened to be in a day room or in the kitchen or any of that stuff, they were as soon as it kicked off on the yard, they were attacked as well, everywhere else. And they were just sorely outnumbered. If I'm just being honest, did not have a chance, just solely based on the numbers. And then based on the anger that the brothers possessed at the time of the attack. And at this time, understand, everyone was militant. The brothers were militant. You can find young black dudes, 20 years old, 19 years old, like I was, walking around the yard with black history books, sitting down having conversations about black power, black unity, and black history. The OGs were all on that page. They were all militant, strong, working out in unison. It's nothing like it. It's still some of that on these level 4 maximum security yards, though. Don't get.
Okay, and so I see I just got a notification saying my computer's about to die. So let me try to get this in real quick. That is the first time I've heard Damian Porter say that, he had been around militant type literature and things of that nature. But it was already no doubt in my mind, right? Just hearing the way he talked, the way he expressed his love for his people, and knowing he had went to prison in a time period where that type of literature was all over the place. When I first got to prison, I read a lot of that type of stuff, and there is no way you can see some of this stuff. You can learn some of this knowledge, right, without being angry. I'm gonna try to share you guys a picture, right? The dude was known as Bull Whipped Peter, or Whipped Peter, and it's a famous portrait of a former slave, sitting there at an examination by a doctor, having his back examined after he has escaped from slavery. And he has these deep, giant whelps, many of them. When I say many of them, probably 15, 20, if not more, across his back, that he ended up accumulating over the period of his time as a slave, I guess, from probably, being insubordinate or whatever they felt that he was, right? And it doesn't matter, right? If any person of any race saw somebody of his race who was treated like that simply because he was that color, and this type of tragedy or travesty was inflicted upon him by another race, I believe 85 to 90% is going to get upset at seeing type of stuff like that. For those who have not read the real history, not the stuff they teach growing up in elementary and high school, because that's an extremely watered down version of America's real nasty history, right? And just a small, quick history lesson right here, man. America would have us believe today, a lot of us, right, that the Civil War was still fought to free the slaves, when that's far from the truth. Briefly, the Civil War was fought to keep the Union intact. Abraham Lincoln himself said it, and you can Google this. He said, if I could preserve the Union without freeing any slaves, I would. If I could preserve the Union by sending all the slaves back to Africa, I would. You know what I'm saying? So his main purpose was only keeping certain states that wanted to succeed from the Union from succeeding. That was his main purpose. It had nothing to do with freeing the slaves, which is why the slaves were not even allowed to fight in the Civil War for maybe about 2 years. So if the war was about freeing the slaves, why wouldn't they let the slaves fight? It's just a lot of history that gets painted over or gets disseminated improper, right? And it's not only, like I said, with the blacks, it's with all minorities in the United States. Real quick, I don't know if you guys are familiar with when Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. America took all the Japanese, primarily on the West Coast though, and sent them into internment camps. Even Japanese Americans, even Japanese who were citizens and born here in America, simply due to the fact that they were Japanese and all their property was took, their businesses and stuff was took, confiscated. Anything that was of value was kept, of course, and everything else was burned, trashed, and they was ushered into these internment camps simply because they were Japanese, even though they had probably been here many, many years themselves, and some were American citizens. Somewhat similar to what we saw happen to a lot of people who were perceived to be Muslims when the towers was bombed. You saw then, people who perceived to be Muslims were spit on, harassed, and all types of things, right? At people's anger over the bombing of when they crashed into the tower. So imagine how things happened way back. I believe I believe Pearl Harbor was bombed. I want to say in 1945, though I could be wrong about that. But whenever it did happen, of course, there was less political righteousness, or whatever they want to call it, political correctness going on back then. So, anyone who really reads and gets a real understanding of how minorities was treated will definitely, more than likely, get upset and become pro-black or Hispanic or Asian or whatever it is, right? So, like I've said before, my opinion of Damon Porter is just very well read on the true history of America. And of course, it has made him angry to see how his people were treated simply for being the color that they were. Anyway, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 of Life. Resume normal program.